Welcome to the Cambridge Centre for Social Innovation's webinar series, Beyond the Pandemic, Equality, Diversity and Inclusion. We explore why the values and practices of EDI need to be embedded in society's infrastructures. And at the core of this series are the personal narratives and experiences needed to influence how organisations, big and small, implement EDI. Our guest speaker is Lisa Stepanovic, founder and CEO of Social Arc, a social enterprise incubator working with 16 to 30-year-olds from East London.
So, about me, this slide is a picture of my dad, who I absolutely adored. He passed away a few years ago, age 94, and I've cared for him throughout his life. Well, throughout the end of his life, he cared for me for like most of mine. Of Polish heritage. He's a camp survivor, and he came to this country after the war, settled here and raised us. My mum was from an Irish background, so immigrant parents, a lot of people say Polish and Irish is a bit of a mad mix. To be fair, it was a bit of a mad mix, and yeah, that was part of our life. We was born and raised in East London. I was born in Tower Hamlets, supposed to be like a Cockney, I suppose you can tell from my voice. I am a Cockney East Ender, born and bred, and I left school. I was at school, I was kind of bright at school, but I left school with no formal qualifications and left home at a young age. That is really quite significant for me to share that, because for years, trying to make things work in the community, trying to build a business, you kind of get left the impression that you did have qualifications and that you could speak on the subject. But it's only now, these years later, that I can openly say that I did leave school without any qualifications. And from a very young age, I turned my hand up. I was a market trader. I had market stalls. And when I say market, I don't mean stock market, the stock exchange. I mean a visible market trader across London's East End markets. I fused several different market stalls. I sold jewellery, I sold clothes, I sold makeup, I sold quite a few different things. And then I was quite an entrepreneur, because I had a kind of chain of them, right? And then I opened a small jewellery shop in Roman Road in East London. And I also had a wholesale business associated with that. So I kind of worked all along from a young age. I'd worked years and years ago in a ball gown dress shop in Oxford Street, working for a Jewish man. He taught me how to sell dresses for balls and events and stuff like that. So around about that time is all I'd worked, is for other people. I also did some Saturday jobs like growing up, but that was really in the market and in retail and in selling things. So that was quite successful. To be fair, I'd done really well at that. Then my life took some turns. I had a child, and while raising him, I did lots of community and support work, and I turned my hand. I was supporting a lot of vulnerable people in the community, so people that might have been struggling with accessing services, benefits, the judicial system, appeals. A lot of young people get pulled into crime. We've seen young people stand up and admit to crimes that they haven't done just to get it over with. And although not formally trained, where I'd been doing this over the years, I'd made friends with some solicitors, lawyers, and some influential people in support services. And yeah, just really threw myself in. I know it sounds strange, left school with no education, and then I'm helping people with legal appeals, but that is how it went. And I built that kind of, I suppose, a reputation for supporting people. So yeah, sorry, it's a lot to take in. A lot of those young people were in the care system and the judicial system, and it was kind of special to me, because I knew what I went through when I left home very young. You know, I had been homeless, I had been that vulnerable person, and I had the skills to bring myself and pick myself out of that. so that's why it kind of does get a bit emotional. So when you're supporting a young person who hasn't had parents, maybe they wasn't, like, I was quite lucky. My dad taught me, I could read and write full sentences by the time I was 4 years old. My dad spent a lot of time with me, right? But there were other young people that hadn't had that. Other young people couldn't pull letters together, impactful letters that make people sit up and listen. So all my work around that time was doing that. And like I've always said, I'm a mum to one, but I am a mum and maybe a stepmom to hundreds more in the community, and an auntie. I've called auntie all day long, and people will say Lisa's my auntie, and then, you know, they're people from all different backgrounds and they don't understand how come, but I am an auntie to so many people. And mentor really does ring true. I'm always fighting the system. Mentor and activist. It seems like, I don't know, I feel like I'm always fighting. I'm always fighting for one thing or the other, and it's never been plain sailing. So the words there, activist and mentor, absolutely ring true. So this is like East London. So talking about East London, it's a bit of a buzzword now. Everyone wants to come to East London. And we know it's always been the birthplace to talent, grime music, notable figures, Idris Elba, Alan Sugar, David Beckham, and even Vera Lynn, like all hidden gems across our working class communities. We can't underestimate what they bring and the power of their talent. But unfortunately, it absolutely always is. And it feels like, as I said before, I'm coming from a personal perspective. It does feel like working class talent is not considered the same, it's not equal, and it's not fair. Broader issues, the problems in the East End are rooted in inequality, unemployment, health, and social housing, which all contribute to our communities feeling disempowered and socially excluded. Gonna go into some numbers here. I didn't want this to be a talk at webinar, but just to give it some perspective, according to the Simpsons Diversity Index, Tower Hamlets is the 16th most diverse local authority in England out of 326 areas. Census data tells us that 104 different languages are spoken locally. Aren't we lucky? Aren't we lucky that we've got that diversity on our doorstep? Poverty affects our working class communities, but we actually struggle to keep up. Trust for London reports that poverty rates in East London boroughs stand at 56%, 10% higher than the London average. Putting that into perspective, so we've got the wealth and infrastructure of Canary Wharf sitting literally meters away from families struggling to put food on the table. It's literally meters away. This is the same in the Olympic Park. The Games brought regeneration, a new E20 postcode, which a lot of people don't like, right? It's always been E15, but that's the story for another day. It's always been Stratford E15, but now it's an E20 postcode. And it brought opportunity for people with the means and confidence to take advantage of it. And really of what's on offer. Making the East End of London the go-to place for more privileged innovators and entrepreneurs across the UK. The wealth disparity has become even more obvious. Local initiatives exclude local residents, and that causes resentment, fear, and anger. Employment amongst the both black and minority ethnic and the white working class remains an ever-growing problem. We were promised more jobs for local people when they built Canary Wharf, but take one look at the people there and that you see very few local people are actually employed there. It is like a class apart and a world apart. 97 schools in Tower Hamlets, and challenge you to look at how many of those head teachers are representative of the local community. The them and us culture is deepening every single day. And there's a real perception amongst local people that organisations, charities, and I mean, when I say local people, it's my perception, yeah, and I'm reading this off of something I prepared, but it's absolutely my perception, and it's the people that I'm in contact with every single day. We do feel that local organisations, charities that receive funding to tackle poverty and inequality are just creating jobs for themselves, and positions that become available, they're just not given to local people. This needs to be challenged regarding representation at senior management level. Again, from a personal perspective, they want us locals to provide case studies and data for their impact reports. And they'll say, come along and get involved with our co-design. Have a drink. We've got free refreshments for you, drinks and sandwiches, and we might even give you a £5 to get the bus here. We need you. We need your case studies. We need your data. But don't think you're getting a job or a seat at the table, because that's just not happening. And that is constantly what we're up against, from the local housing associations to the community organisations. You look at the management in local community organisations, they don't look like the community that they serve. And that is, I'm speaking from first-hand lived experience, that I'm seeing that. So this is, even though this has come out by becoming as a bit of a rant or as a bit of an attack, this is what's happening on my doorstep in a borough that I was born in and have worked in all my life. So yeah, they want to use us for impact stories and case studies, and again, they'll secure more funding and more investment, because there will be the go-to people to fix and cure us and sort out the poor communities. We're not treated equally. We're not treated equally at all, and opportunities are given to people that look like them and speak like them, and that they can relate to, because they're from similar backgrounds. It causes hate and divide, and local people just feel powerless to challenge it. So social work is something that I'm really passionate about. I'm going to first tell you what social work does, what we do. And we work with really talented local young East Londoners who use their lived experiences to set up their own social enterprises. We started in 2015, providing structured learning to small cohorts, teaching the nuts and bolts of starting and leading a community business. And that is all around, there are lots of incubator programs, and they do the standard finance session, leadership session, but we really do teach about community engagement. We teach how to really embed diversity and inclusion throughout the work that you're doing, and to be truly for the communities that you're in and serve, and just to really help the young people who are all absolutely values driven, but just really to help them to own those values and to embed them in everything they do. Because a lot of the time, they're in these areas where they're seeing other people, not necessarily from their area, more affluent, from different backgrounds, and they're thinking, oh, they do things a certain way and they can access opportunities. So what we try to show them is stick to your values and when you're building your business. And yes, we do teach the nuts and bolts of everything from piloting, monitoring, measuring, evaluation. And there's that old saying that if you're from a tough background, you need to work twice as hard as everybody else. And you know what? That's absolutely true. So they do need to work twice as hard. They do need to 3 times as hard to make the same impact. But then what you're getting from our young people, you're getting from brilliant leaders, so values driven, that have absolutely worked to get to where they want to go. We also, part of social work, we also do quite a bit of wraparound support. So when we say that, it's the stuff that you won't find in our impact reports. We won't be writing about some of the support that we give people. But for example, we've supported in court cases, we've supported in legal work, in times of abuse and neglect. We've supported with everything like that, because people want lived experience leaders and they're wealth of talent, but they're also usually weighed down with a whole heap of personal baggage that's following them around, and supporting them with that is really been key into our success and what we do. Organically, we've created the social work family, and a lot of organisations, we've created a family, but we really have. And we didn't set out actually to do that. It just happens organically. It consists of our young social entrepreneurs Many of them face complex intersecting barriers. Some are ex-offenders, some are single parents, some have experienced a lack of formal education. Some of them have done really well in education, right? Let's not put labels on people, because some of them have absolutely been brilliant, but that doesn't mean to say they haven't faced disadvantage growing up. We've had care leavers, young carers. Some of our entrepreneurs have disabilities, including hidden disabilities such as mental health. Our family just wouldn't be complete without our volunteers and supporters. And again, I know I'm always talking about the working class in East London, but absolutely, we've had so much support from people who are not from a working class background, who are not on our doorstep, but they really have wanted to champion and share our success, and raising, when people come from a more privileged background, you know, making that space from somebody less able to enter that space is so empowering. And it's very different to people coming in and wanting to work with you to better their career and forward their own prospects. And so we've had people from senior corporate mentors, from CEOs working in corporates and banks. We've had mentors from ex-offenders, people that have spent quite a long time in prison, right, supporting new young people and with their projects and stuff. We've had creatives, we've had artists, we've had, you know, people work in the arts. So it's really broad and varied. We match our entrepreneurs with mentors specifically tailored to them. We don't just say, yes, Mr. Corporate, we'll work with 10 of your people as part of your CSR strategy. Give us a bit of money and we'll tick that box. We don't do that. We're not box ticking. We make sure that our young people are really supported to be the best they can be. And to do that, it can never be one size fits all. So we really are, we're creating our own ecosystem, building sustainability from the bottom up. Gonna also talk about, we employ our own people from our own community, and that's not because we don't see the talent in other people, because we absolutely do. But you know, if we're delivering programs, we want them to be relatable, and we want our young people to build trust with us. And people build, when you're relatable, you can build trust between yourselves. And it's been quite tough to actually say, right, we do need people with all different skills, but our ethos is around supporting our own young people and our own staff and our own communities to contribute to the work we're doing and to build our organisation like that. And relatability is key. So I'm just going to give you some numbers, a snapshot of our impact up until March 2021. So we've nurtured 36 social enterprises. We've supported an additional 230 young people for our programmes. We've worked with 80 work experience students from across East London, provided over 5,600 hours of learning and one-to-one support. We've worked with over 70 volunteers and provided over 700 hours of tailored continued personal development support. We've introduced social entrepreneurship across our community and delivered over 600 inclusive community activities, which were free and they benefited the local residents. So our programs have been running for 5 years, and yeah, we're really using lived experience-led social enterprises to raise the economy and employment, actually just building sustainability from the bottom up. And despite being our family disproportionately affected by the pandemic, I've moved the slide too fast, apologies. We were determined to continue delivering services while ensuring that the emerging social enterprises survived. Pandemic hit, yes, it was a panic, right? As a working class organisation, dealing with unexpected crisis was actually nothing new for us. We cracked on, operating on a shoestring, and we made sure our young people were supported. It absolutely was a tough time. We know the Black and ethnic minority community have been most impacted by the pandemic. Now, lots of our young people, family members are working in key worker jobs. We've got people living in overcrowded social housing with no access to outside space. all of the barriers that come along that made COVID hit them worse. Now, I'm just trying, I don't know anybody in our cohorts and around whose family hasn't been impacted by COVID. Either a family member's had COVID, or they've lost people to COVID, or they, absolutely, it's in their family. We've all struggled with it, myself included. So we really are, when I speak to people, they say, oh, do you know somebody that's had it then? It's really, you know, it was a breeding ground for us in East London. So when it hit us and everyone was out there running about, power buying and clearing all the food off the shelves, you know, our young people were just starting out in their businesses, and it was, they looked to us, they looked to me, and it was tough. Lisa, you encouraged us to come off benefits. You told us we're going to be social entrepreneurs. You helped us do all this, the transition. Now our contracts have been cancelled. Yeah, no one wants to work, buy our services, and we're all in lockdown. I've still got rent to pay. Like, what is going on? So it was really tough. It was absolutely tough. And we immediately designed a new program, and we went hard at it. To be fair, it was at the time there was a lot of visiting social entrepreneurs, right? And these people, I'm going to speak on them a little bit more as we go on. They come into East London, all in with good intentions to fix and cure our poor communities, right? But when COVID hit, they all went home. They all went home into the leafy suburbs and into the countryside and the places where they come from. And that, I think it must have been the market trader entrepreneur in me, because I said, they've gone home, the space is ours, right? Social media is ours. It's not cloudy anymore. It's not full up of people claiming to do work that they haven't done just to secure funding, right? Let's put our stuff on there. Let's show people what we're doing. And the generosity and the kindness of our young people who were supporting their neighbours, dropping parcels, caring for this person here, caring, they was doing all that while they were really up against it themselves. We designed a program, and we documented that really clearly on social media. And where it wasn't so busy, with all the I call them social do-gooders, like flying in, parachuting in, wasn't busy anymore. And it actually resulted in funders reaching out. It was like, wow, look at your young people, they're stunning, their projects are this, their projects that, look at the work you did. Do you need any help, Lisa? Do you need a grant? I was like, hell yes, do we? Of course we do. We absolutely need a grant. So yeah, a few funders got on board and really supported us. And actually, we run a program. It's quite an innovative program. So our guys peer mentored each other and shared skills, and they were paid to do that. So we put some paid work opportunities in place, and we really supported them through that time. And if you go to the Social Arc website, you'll see the impact report of that particular project on the front page. So yeah, we really did crack on. We moved online, and you know, operating on a shoestring when you're a working class organisation that has actually been locked out of funding and overlooked and sidestepped by other funders and other organisations, we got through it, and we, to be honest, we thrived during a bad time, and even though we was all up against it personally as well. And so Social Arc, why was it created? We was created, like I've said throughout, we were created due to the barriers. We were created due to the inequality on our doorstep, and lots of people will say inequality. They will use policies, they will use procedures, but you know what, unless that's being followed, they just ain't worth the paper they're written on. You might as well rip them up and put them in the bin, because a lot of organisations are not actually operating as they should be. So where did it come from? It started in a local school. It was a school where I was a parent governor. My own son actually went to the school, and I wasn't too happy with the educational offer. So I decided to throw myself in right at the deep end, and I was a governor there for 8 years. And so after about 6.5 years, I took part in a social entrepreneurship course at the School for Social Entrepreneurs. I'm going to name that. And it really opened my eyes to a lot of the community work that I'd been doing, and how I could maybe package that into a product that I could actually, you know, I could work at, and I could thrive, and our community could really benefit from it. So yeah, I wanted to open up the school as a community centre in the evenings. There was wealth of people, local people always saying, how do you do a business, Lisa? Can you help me with this? It just all seemed to, you know, there's a space, state-of-the-art building, empty after 3 o'clock, let's do it. Great, lots of plans in place. So I went out, raised near on £1 million, secured a corporate partnership with a big corporate in Canary Wharf, and then bam, got the 3 years national lottery funding. Yes, treading the pavements, doing market research, making sure that it really was a project that local people wanted and took ownership of. I knew it wasn't like Lisa just come in and design a program. I knew we had to get the buy-in of the community, and that wasn't hard. It really wasn't hard to go to the community and say, what do you want? Because we'd built that trust. I'd known them. They were my friends and neighbours. They were people that lived around my way. And just to put it in perspective, I lived literally meters away from the school. So it really was my local area. So as I said, I'd done lots of fundraising, and then I was hit with something I just couldn't agree with. Now, I built up a relationship with the school. I'd been their lead fundraiser, and led on the business development, and also building relationships with the corporates. So I built this relationship up over time, and I'd done it absolutely for nothing. I'd done it as a volunteer for years. And then I was hit with something, as I said, that I couldn't agree with. I found out that the school had actually hired someone that had been convicted of the racist murder of a local father, Shibli Rahman, a local Bengali man who lived literally a few meters from the school. He was so respected locally, and that was tough. The students and community, they came to me for answers, right? Questioning the employment of the individual. And it was when one Asian boy, he said to me, Lise, he said, because that's how we talk to the kids in the school, Lise, if me and my mates attacked and stabbed to death a local white dad and called him racist names, do you think we'd get a job in the local school? Even though I was horrified, I had to answer truthfully. And I told him I didn't think he would. It was really tough at that time, talking to the authorities, talking to the governing body. I said, we need to address this. I didn't want a witch hunt for the staff member. Like, the school hadn't used the right processes and hired the guy without they did checks, but they made a decision that impacted the community after. They did do the checks, and they still made the decision. And I just want to be clear, I'm not against the power to change or rehabilitation. I absolutely believe in that. That's integral to everything I do and how I live. But you don't insult the community that are still paining and suffering. You don't, employing someone within that community a few streets away from where families still live, it's opening up sore wounds, and that's not how we respect our diverse communities, and that's not how we respect each other. So that was my issue. So getting back to the activist bit, it was probably one of the most painful things that I've ever had to go through, right? So we raised all this money, we opened the community centre, funders love us, local people love us, but the community just wouldn't come in. And I understood that. And I tried to negotiate the school, to talk to the community. Let's get this, let's go round to the mosque, let's go round to the organisations. Let's do really what I know I can do, because I'm respected in the community, and I respect the community. There's a big difference of being respected in the community, and that's one-sided. Is I absolutely respect the people around me. So I said, look, I'll do this. But I was shut down. I was shut down at every single challenge. It was an absolutely tough time. I got accused of lots of things that was absolutely not true, to try to take away the heat of what was going on. And this actually, the governing body, just to be clear, it had politicians on our governing body, local politicians and councillors that had all stood by and allowed this employment position. They'd accepted it. There was a panel, and they decided. So when I'm challenging the local governing body, it got political, and and I absolutely was shut down every opportunity. It was quite tough because I had to go back to the entrepreneurs, the founding group that we were working with, and we are still working with that same group today, 5 years later. So I know we absolutely did the right thing, but I said to them, you know, we're going to go, right? Yes, we have raised a lot of money, but that was all in the name of the school. If we leave now, we are leaving with no building. We are leaving with hardly any money. The grants, the lovely Apple Macs and recording studios, and the beautiful space and the indoor sports hall, we're leaving with none of that. You're going to have to probably do your fitness stuff in the park, right? Because we had no space. And it was, no, it's all right, Liz, we're coming with you. We'll go together. We don't agree with it. We'll go together. And it was, I don't know, it got my heart, because I'm, you know, these are young leaders taking a stand. You know, these are young leaders that make me so proud of my community and where I'm from, right? They were taking a stand when so many other people would have been, sod that, you know, that we'll stay here with where the money is. And I did say to them, I would understand if you want to stay, right? And I will maybe support you from afar, but I can't be visibly, I won't support that. I can't do that, because I can't do that. So yeah, I left, the young people come with me, and we rebranded Social Arc. Yeah, because we were all on this, we felt like we were on a bit of an arc, right? And we thought we was all on a journey, and we weren't really, we had to leave everybody. We didn't feel welcome and excluded. And there was a lot of controversy around the time, and yeah, it went on for a little while. I tried, like I said there, we applied for community funding. We never got the funding. There's always been a huge amount of controversy around Tower Hamlets, right? All around long history of being investigated for the mishandling of council grants. Yeah, we didn't hold our breath when they promised an overhaul of the grant service, but we gave them the benefit of the doubt and applied. And actually, we fitted the theme perfectly, reducing barriers to employment for disadvantaged groups. And as the subgroup of that was for young people from marginalised backgrounds as well. They funded, this is a local community fund, which our council tax goes to pay, right? This is a local initiative. Instead, they funded a group from I think it was North London, from far away anyway, from North London, and also another organisation that didn't even have a website. So you're getting the picture, right? It's been tough. It's been tough. So that's what they did. So what we done, we just cracked on, and it was a conversation I had with one of our mentors, and they said, Lisa, don't bother. Don't stay at the parapet. Don't go that far. Just rise and do things differently. And that really did stick with me around that time. And like as we left, yeah, we had limited resources, but we did it, and it was a real wake-up call, and it really helped the young people establish those. Well, the values were always there, absolutely always there, but really started to value their lived experience, because for a while I'd be trying to coach them and speak to them about, you know, your lived experience is what makes you special. Your lived experience is what makes you unique. But there was a real kind of stigma attached to sharing those lived experiences. And it's only now, like a few years later, that everyone, it's a buzzword, right? People are using the word to secure funding, to secure different pathways to success. Everyone's a lived experience leader. But, you know, if you're in this sector, I urge you to just dig a bit deeper to see what that experience is. So as I said, throughout this, we've constantly had to battle with it. So we've constantly had to battle, and I call them parachutes, the landing. They're constantly coming into our communities, and they are supported. There's a massive class divide, massive. And it's more privileged people come into like social entrepreneur programs across London. They attract well-meaning, educated individuals from right across the UK. They're all determined to come up with solutions to our toughest problems and to fix and cure us. Our entrepreneurs, they constantly tell us, we don't want to be fixed, and we don't need to be cured by people that have never walked a day in our shoes. They want the tools and support to fix themselves. We're really thankful that our young people are resilient, and not resilient in a good way, like an admirable way. It's so frustrating when you see talent who really do tick every box, make sure their safeguarding is on point, make sure their proposal is meeting all the outcomes, to stand by and watch somebody be fast-tracked who hasn't done any of the work into their community and get funded by the local housing association, the corporate partnership there, and the local community centre. And I am speaking from a place of experience and not something I've read. You know, we got to stand by and watch how these individuals are fast-tracked to opportunities, housing, funding, and then they're nominated for the awards. It's not hard to be an award-winning social entrepreneur when you've had literally everything handed to you on a plate, right? It amazes me, you know, if you've got friends in the media and you're really good at writing these applications, and you've got friends in positions of power and that are running social entrepreneur platforms and media outlets, it's so easy to get your friends to nominate you. And I think that I truly believe they start to really believe that they are award-winning social entrepreneurs. And it's a real struggle to stand by and watch that privilege, watch that inequality. So how is that a commitment to diversity, inclusion, and equality? If you really truly cared about those things, you would step aside and even support the local initiatives in the communities that you're going to. We're not asking you for you to not come. We are welcoming you. We absolutely love you, right? But we want to work beside you. Just don't take the foods out of locals' mouths and opportunities. There is space for everyone, right? There's absolutely space, but just don't take opportunities from local people. Yeah, because it is, you know, we've got to stand by and watch this. And I can speak on this now. When we first started, I couldn't speak on it. When we first started, yeah, I'd speak a little bit and I'd be like, oh, you know, you need to slow down, Lisa. That's too much of the activists coming out. You need to shut up a little bit. But it's really tough to stand by and watch. And we have had to watch. We have had to stand by and see little films made and all these people just elevating themselves. And to be fair, I have reached out to certain groups, and like we're on a webinar, I'm not going to name names, but I have reached out and said, should we have a conversation? Do you think we can make this more equal? Do you think we could work together? And I've get the door shut on me every single time. But when I get people from those backgrounds to say, Lisa, can we have a meeting? Can I learn a bit about social work? Can you have a meeting with me? Yeah, absolutely. I invite you in and let's have a conversation. I'll give you an example. We had one young lady, she came to me and she said, I really am interested in the work you do, but I'm not sure how to address the community that you're working with. Now, she was in a community space she was doing like an internship for a social entrepreneur program. How would I speak to people, Lisa? I said, just call them by their name, right? I said, and you can actually say, I'm not from this community. And she said, but I want to tell people that I just want to give back. I said, well, we'll be quite offended at you saying that, because you haven't actually really physically taken anything from us, right? You're taking our space and our opportunities, but we don't need you to give back, because really you might not have anything that we want. I said, so why don't you just say, hey, you know, I'm working in this space. I really want to get to know the communities, and I know I'll never be half the woman I need to be until I include everyone, and I have an inclusive approach, and I educate myself, and I really want to learn from you guys. I said, if you say that, they will welcome you, they'll sit down, they get you drink, they'll make you part of the family, but don't come in and say you want to give back. We don't need that kind of patronizing language, and we don't necessarily feel you've got anything to give us. If anything, it's the other way around. We've got a lot to educate you, and we've got a lot to give you, and just accept that welcoming approach from us. And so, yeah, we I know I go on about that quite a bit, but we are like used to that going on. And I think that with the local lived experience stuff, lately with the Black Lives Matter stuff, the real lived experience leaders are now being celebrated, but actually celebrated to a degree, because you still got to come correct. There's organisations, I wasn't even going to go down this route, but I'm going to. There are organisations that are, you know, they'll put up their black screen, they will say, I'm a supporter, I'm an ally, I'm doing this, I'll tick some boxes. But what are they actually doing? What are they actually doing in the decisions that they make, their employment practices? It's just, a lot of it is just box tick. And when you want to do the stuff on the ground, they want to invest in lived experience leaders. But as long as they're not too lived experience, as long as they're not too much of a risk, because, you know, we can't have risk, we can't have reputational damage. And the cycle continues, and they'll still keep funding the same old safe bets, but they will hire a certain amount of people, and they will put a few little practices in place just to tick that box. Again, I'm only speaking from what I see. And so, and as well, gatekeepers are actually supporting this, and their silence is a reminder of what we're up against. The dialogue that I'm constantly asking for and trying to negotiate, it's just not happening. It's falling on deaf ears. And I know I can get passionate, and I know I can rant a bit, right? But I promise these people respectful conversations. And if I'm going to publicly say, I promise you respectful conversations, I'm not going to break my words on that. I want the respectful conversations, but we are not welcome. And those conversations are not welcome, because actually they can't answer the question. Because I'll say, if you really care and you're in this sector, you know, you're making a name for yourself, your ambition is coming before people. If you really care about equality, then practice what you preach. Take a step back, just look at yourself, look at the area of work you're in, just practice what you preach. But they won't. They are fast-tracked to subsidised housing, free travel, community grants, and opportunities meant for locals. It's crazy, because there was one opportunity, and I think if you can afford to take a year off work, right? If you can afford, just bear with me on this, you can afford to take a week off work to go into a poor community, to fix and cure community's toughest problems. Why on earth do you need subsidised housing for 17 quid a week or 20 quid a week to subsidise it? Because that's the offer alongside a lot of these programmes. People get offered subsidised housing, community grants. If you can afford to take a year off work, do that off your own back. Don't do it off our communities. Don't come and live in the subsidised social housing when we've got young people, change makers that are fierce, that are getting up every day, installing hope and creativity in our communities, and making real impact. They're sleeping in overcrowded conditions. They're sleeping on their parents' sofas, on their friends' sofas. They've got no access to outside space. Many of the guys coming in are living in really wealthy backgrounds. So I'm just saying, to put it into perspective, whether they're unconscious or conscious, they're contributing to the problem. Just going to briefly touch on this. Social work's no longer in Tower Hamlets. We got an eviction order during the pandemic and was told that was our building there in the photograph, and that land is actually owned by a social housing association, but they're actually developing it into private flats, and we were evicted in the middle of the pandemic. So picture that, trying to get a van to move out in the middle of pandemic. So just going to leave it there.
But Lisa, I mean, clearly this is it's a challenge that you have taken on with gusto. How do you empower your young people to take what you teach them to then go and teach that to others? What is that kind of continuing social impact that you have going?
Well, it's about living and breathing the same values, right? And to always come correct. And I think that where we give, well, opportunities go first of all to our young people. So for example, if we get offered work and we get offered to go in to deliver stuff, our guys are lived experience experts. We're paid respectfully. You know, we pay them as respectful facilitators. A lot of people will say, oh, can't they do it for nothing? But, you know, we're all paid in our day job, right? So that is how we do it, is we build respect, and we respect our young people, and they in turn value themselves more, and that goes into the next generation. So we employ our own to be project managers, facilitators, who are all respectfully paid. That creates a cycle.
And if you were able to sort of get into schools again and work with young people from the schools at that point, sort of, you know, 11 to 16, what would you do then? Because I know that some schools are really good at implementing their diversity, equality and inclusion, and they're really good also at, you know, understanding how to challenge racist behavior and racist policies. But there are other schools and other educational environments that aren't quite as good as that. But so what would you, if given that opportunity again to get in there from 11 to 16-year-olds, what would you do?
I think it'd be to really embed their voice, importance of owning who you are and feeling proud of who you are, and creating platforms where young people can speak about it, speak about their backgrounds, their experiences, and to really celebrate that. So to run programs that really champion and celebrate that, so that young people are encouraged to use their voice. And I think that there's quite a lot of schools that say, yes, we encourage talk, but actually where that school where I was, when the kids were mentioning it, shut up, shut it down. No, on paper, we encourage you to speak up, but actually when you're raising this issue now, we don't want to hear it anymore. We want to silence it. So I think to go into schools, and especially across the East London and across deprived London communities, or deprived communities anywhere, to encourage working class kids from those backgrounds, whatever race they are, religion, to really build confidence in their voice and their presenting and actually owning their story, and to be proud of it.
So we have here this evening people from the Judge Business School. We have people who are interested in finding out more about social innovation. We have people who are social entrepreneurs. These are people who are front-facing, as it were. What would be your advice to all of us who've been here this evening about how to implement equality and diversity and inclusion in not just the work that we do, but in the systems that we work in, and the systems and the infrastructures that we're developing?
I'd say to you know, we'll create policies, and you can't get funding until you tick off certain boxes that you've got policies. But just, and I know this might sound a bit, embed it in everything you do. When you're employing staff, have your teams employ people from those diverse communities, and make sure there's a space available that they can share how they feel. And always ask yourself, if you're working in the social enterprise space, treat your beneficiaries, treat the people that you're working with respect, and respect those communities. So if you're doing co-design, right, and you want to find out if a certain project or an idea will work in your community, don't just use that community to pull together your evidence of needs. If you want your programs to work and succeed, embed those people in the delivery and design of that. And when I say that, embed it as an equal, you know, embed it as, you know, people come along, don't just give them a sandwich. If you've got a budget to do co-design, don't insult local people with a sandwich and some bus fare. And it, oh, very well, with, you know, you've got something to add for your CV. You know, I think the reason why Social Work has still got the founding members from day one, we've got our founding group are there, they work for us, they lead their stuff, even though they might not be working on the same projects, they're doing different things, but they're still committed to what we do and our family, because that's built over trust. It's trust and respect, and it takes a little while. When you've got that, it's you don't have to go out and shout about how brilliant you are. Other people will do that for you because they're proud to be a part of it. Now, we pay people respectfully. You can't say somebody is a lived experience expert, but you're going to give them 50 quid. And instead, you're going to give somebody from a more affluent background, oh, we must pay him a consultancy fee. You know, it's instill that equality through everything you do, and your businesses will work. And it doesn't, even though I've gone on about lived experience and the working class, it doesn't matter if you're from a more privileged background. If you're going to do good work in this space, absolutely do it. We need as many change makers as we can get who's going to do great work, but just treat the communities that you're going into with the respect and respect their difference, respect their culture, and embed it in everything you do, and you won't go wrong.
Thank you, Lisa. It is exactly 6:30. Robert, go ahead.
I just ask a very quick question, because I thank you very much, Lisa, for your inspiring sharing, and then I can see your passion in working with the community from different backgrounds. So after 5 years or 6 years of the setup, do you Social Arc have any strategy in long run to have a more cooperative or have a more collaborative relationship with government, local authority, and corporate, in order to bring this platform can walk longer with like consistent, or I would say constant funding coming in, so that it's more sustainable in terms of financial side?
Well, like I said, the pandemic was really tough, and that's gone on for like 2 years now. So it was really reacting with not a lot of time to reflect, responding with not a lot of time to reflect. We're hopefully going into a new corporate partnership now, and the plans we are thinking about growing. We're thinking about expanding it to different areas across London, and we are thinking like that. But as I said, that we are still at a recovery stage from the pandemic, and as you saw, we got evicted in the pandemic. So we've got to sort out our own stuff first before thinking. But we are, I think, on the verge of a new corporate partnership, a partnership that shares our values, and that we have worked with before. So we are looking forward to that. We do think, like you said about government and funding, we have received 3 years national lottery funding now to pay for salaries in that over the next 3 years, and that will give us time to grow and to think about how we connect and sustainability in the long term.